This time last year, my wife Irene passed away from cancer. She was 35. Our two little boys, Oscar and Noah, were 4 and 2 when they became motherless. At the age of 36, I took on a new title in life, a widower. While myself and my two boys are now all a year older, Irene will remain 35 forever. This is a real-life situation. When scandals come and go, mistakes have been made and are identified, some measures are put in place so these don't happen again. Our real-life situation will stay with us forever, and this mistake will never be rectified for us. Saying goodbye to Irene forever, telling my 4-year-old a few hours later that his mom is gone and won't be back ever again is the most difficult thing I or any human being will ever have to do. And the pain of that will never go away, and it'll stay in my heart and my mind forever. For 9 months since Irene's passing, myself and my boys have been living day by day, dealing with the grief, the pain, and the loss. That is until Vicky Phelan entered our lives on the 25th of April and did the most heroic and courageous thing, and stood up against our state and said, she will not be silenced, that everybody deserves to know what has been going on. That is the day the cervical check scandal entered our lives. That is the day Vicky Phelan potentially saved many women's lives. I can only compare and describe to you the pain I felt a couple of days later on the 3rd of May, when I, along with Irene's parents, sat in front of her consultant, and we went through the audit results of smears that Irene had got taken back in 2013 and 2010, as very similar pain to that I felt the day I had to say goodbye to Irene forever. Because you see, both those smears were misread. They didn't fall into the limitations we hear about the cervical screening program. If the people that were reading Irene's smears did their job correctly on either one of those 2 smears, she'd be alive today. In addition to that, we went on to learn that the HSC and cervical check were aware of Irene's audit 3 weeks before she died. And they made the decision, the conscious decision, not to share that information with Irene. Furthermore, 3 months after she died, the same group of consultants met again and had the similar conversation on should they now share those audit results with me. Again, same decision made, they wouldn't. They wouldn't share the information with me, and that audit got buried in Irene's file. This decision coming from individuals working for an organisation that supposedly support open disclosure policy. Obviously, my pain turned to anger, my anger into complete rage, and that rage is now channeled into the energy that keeps me going each day, to seek accountability for Irene and our boys. So one day, years from now, when Oscar and Noah are old enough to understand all of this and ask me, what did I do about the mistakes that were made that resulted in their mum's delayed diagnosis that cost her life? I'll be able to turn around to them and say, I did everything. This is why I opened the doors to my house when I broke my story and invited everybody in. This is why I gave Irene a name in this fight, so she will no longer be referred to as just one of 18. So what have I learnt in the last 3 months since Vicky lifted the lid off this scandal? I want to share with you today. Since that day in early May, there have been many sentences floating around my head, all beginning with the 2 words, what if? And I want to share a couple of those with you now. Obviously, the biggest one in my mind, what if those people in those 2 labs that read Irene's slides did their job correctly? Well, I've already shared that with you. She'd be alive now, and I certainly wouldn't be here right now. What if the HSC, Department of Health, cervical check, disclosed these audits as soon as they appeared to the women involved? Could we have done something to trigger that would have saved lives? What if we triggered a review of our screening program sooner? Could we have saved more lives? What if we realised sooner that there was a HPV screening option available on the market that our health service ignored because it cost? Could we have saved more lives? What if the medical negligence process with the Department of Finance didn't, as first port of call, silence every claim of wrongdoing? Could mistakes be highlighted in a different way, and we now seek to prevent them happening again? What if we stopped talking about referring to the culture within our healthcare system and start calling it now for what it actually is? Protect, deny, and silence. Protect the people who work and make mistakes within the system. Deny any wrongdoing so we can reinforce that protection, and silence those that challenge it. And for my final what if, the one that incorporates all my thoughts and brings all of them together for me. What if we lived in a country that patient safety was at the core of everything we do? Mandatory open disclosure so we can identify safety issues as they happen and rectify them instead of burying them as not to make those accountable. Have clear sanctions in place on the individuals who take it on themselves not to abide by this. A CEO of a healthcare system who answers to a board whose primary focus in their strategic plan is patient safety. A strategic plan that is not designed by a board, but by a government that incorporates all of their departments with one focus, putting patient safety first. A plan agreed by everyone to take forward in our healthcare system that has patient safety at its core. Only until we do this and implement this, we can start moving away from the much spoken about culture and truly have a healthcare system that we could start to trust and rely on. Finally, I'd just like to take this opportunity just to thank Joe Mulholland and his team at the MacGill Summer School for putting the cervical check scandal on this year's agenda, inviting Vicky and I along. It's very important to us that we use our voice in a positive way to seek accountability for the loss of my wife and the other 17 women that have lost their lives. For the children who grow up without their mother, for those mothers who have buried their daughters, for all of the other women who are like Vicky in front of you today right now fighting a terminal diagnosis, or who are currently in the middle of treatment, or who are now post-cancer and in the clear, but struggle through their daily lives physically and mentally as a result of the consequences of taking on such a battle, or even now, in addition to that, knowing that it all could have been prevented. That we use our voices to highlight the mistakes that have been made and ensure that all these mistakes are rectified so we could ensure trust and confidence back into a screening programme so that all women of Ireland and their families can totally rely on. But for me personally, Irene's life, the fight she took on and lost, her death for me cannot end with a scandal, which is why I agreed to stand in front of you today, the day before Irene's first anniversary since her passing, and say to you, we won't be silenced, we won't rest or go away until we put right everything that has been wrong. Thank you.